Chapter 9 Pooh Patrol, Goldfish and Ninja Tortoises. Monday mornings involve a lot of running, arm waving, shrieking and crying. It's one of the days Mum works at the vet's, and the only day Dad doesn't work from home. So getting me to school, Lolly to nursery and them to work can be a bit of a challenge. For them anyway. I usually just kick about in my room, avoiding all of the above until it's time for breakfast. But that was before Flicker. On my first school day since the baby dragon had arrived, I was more panicked than Mum and Dad combined. My first job was Pooh Patrol. I'd already learned the best way to deal with Flicker's poos was with a pair of oven gloves and a water pistol, just in case any had dried out to the point of detonation. Then I used one of Lolly's little plastic spades from last year's holiday at the beach to shovel them up and drop them down the toilet. Quick wash of the spade in the sink and the worst job was done. The next thing was emptying out my toy box and lining it with some fresh paper and my old dressing gown. I was planning on leaving Flicker my cheese plant and bowl of water. On that first night, I'd been so caught up in the whole I have a dragon hysteria, I'd forgotten he needed to drink. It was only when I'd gone to the loo and turned round to see him about to nosedive into the toilet that I figured that one out. Luckily, I caught him just in time. The last thing I wanted was him thinking that was the water bowl. By the time I left for school, I was pretty sure Flicker had everything he'd need to spend the day on his own in my room. But by the time I got to school, I had a nagging feeling I'd forgotten something. As I was racking my brains, Ted, Kat and Kai raced over. "Hey, Thomas, did you know humans share 50% of their DNA with bananas?" Ted said. "I didn't. And they're herbs too, you know." "Humans? Bananas, they're herbs, not fruit." I hadn't known that either, but then I wasn't sure anyone other than Ted knew this stuff. His head was full of it. I've known Ted since we were goldfish. I mean, not actual goldfish, but the size of them. When our mums found out they were pregnant, they went to this class where you find out what to do with babies. I've no idea what they learned, but it had something to do with llamas, I think. That's where they met, and so that's when Ted and I first met. Although being squished inside our mums meant our first play dates were a bit limited. We were even due to arrive on the same day, which would have been pretty cool, really, as we'd have the same birthday. But Ted went and barged his way out early, so he had a full 2 weeks with no best mate, which kind of serves him right. Kat and Kai we met on our first day at school. They're twins. Like me and Lolly, they genuinely seem to like each other. It doesn't stop them arguing, mind you, but if push comes to shove, if you mess with one, expect the other to come wading in for them. So there's the 4 of us, and it's been like that since forever. "You okay, Thomas?" Kat asked. "Where'd you get all those scratches?" I rubbed my arm. Until Flicker had got the hang of his tail, every time he batted it about, the arrowhead had gouged into my skin. Tom, I said, hurriedly. "What about that?" she asked, pointing at my hand. I fiddled with the plaster. It was just a mild burn from my first Pooh Patrol before the oven glove. I'm rubbish at lying. I panic, and then my overactive imagination gets involved. For some reason, right then, Nana's tortoise, Jacko, popped into my head. Only he was a ninja tortoise with a jetpack. I was just about to blurt out that I'd been attacked by a torpedo tortoise when luckily I was saved by Mr. Peters ringing the bell. I lunged for the door, just managing to get in front of Liam. I rule the universe, Swaston. "Oi," he wailed. "Sir, Thomas just elbowed me." I'd actually brushed his arm with the tip of my littlest finger, but Liam's not one to bother with details. Without hanging about to see if Sir was going to call me back, I ducked inside and made for our classroom. Chapter 10 Why You Should Never Keep a Dragon in Your Rucksack. I'm not known for my brilliant concentration in class. In fact, Miss Logan has repeatedly said she wishes there was an Olympic medal for daydreaming because I'd win gold. By the time I'd absent-mindedly glued Amara's sleeve to the table and painted stripes across Seb's left hand, it wasn't just Miss Logan raising her eyebrows. But I couldn't help it. I couldn't stop thinking about what Flicker was doing and if I'd been right to leave him at home, alone. It was then I noticed Ted's nose wrinkling. He leaned closer. Was he smelling me? I edged away, giving my arm a sniff and scanning my clothes. wondering if I'd got so used to the whiff of dragon poo that I hadn't noticed I'd got some on me. "Dude, what is with you today?" Kai whispered. "You're being off the scale weird." But before I had the chance to blame my rogue tortoises, Mr. Firth strode into the classroom. "Ready for the rounders competition, Miss Logan?" he bellowed. "We've been looking forward to this all term. I hope you've had your class working on their skills after last term's netball fiasco." Miss Logan smiled serenely. "I think we're ready for you, Mr. Firth." "Oh, I doubt that, Miss Logan, but I suppose we must admire your optimism. Of course, my lot depend on ability more than wishful thinking. Anyway, the match has been scheduled for 2 p.m. I'll be taking Lightning class out for warm-up beforehand. You're welcome to join us, if you don't think we'll scare the opposition." From the look he gave us, he said the word opposition. It was clear he didn't think we qualified as a serious threat. He didn't throw his head back like some dastardly villain and scoff outright, but we all knew Mr. Firth thought his class was going to wipe the floor with us. And even Miss Logan didn't look quite so serene after he'd left. I could tell Ted, Kat and Kai wanted to quiz me properly when we were on our way out of class, so I hung on behind, pretending I'd lost my pen under the table. Part of me would have liked to tell them everything, but another part wanted to keep Flicker all to myself. I'd never had anything as cool as Flicker before, and I wasn't sure I was ready to share him. Not yet. But I was beginning to realise that with my terrible lying skills, keeping him a secret might not be as easy as I'd thought. The exploding poo didn't help either. It happened while we were out getting into our PE kits. I lifted out my shorts and my heart sank. There were dark scorch marks across the bum, but it was the smell that everyone else noticed first. One of Flicker's dried up poos had exploded, covering every inch of the bag. Liam screwed up his nose. "Ugh, miss, something smells." He'd looked in my direction, "and I think it might be coming from over there." Everyone turned to look at me. It was one of those times you wish you had a pop-up black hole in your pocket, ready to swallow you up. "I think Thomas has had an accident, miss," he said, pretending to whisper behind his hand, but actually saying it loud enough for Class 3 to hear. Class 3 were 2 doors away. Liam was just loving this. I looked to Ted and Kai, but even they were backing away. I stuffed the shorts back inside my bag, cringing. While the rest of the class bundled out towards the field, I was sent to Lost Property to find some spare kit. It wouldn't have been so bad if I'd had a different surname, but as it was like handing Liam a free gift. That's me stuck with Whiffy Liffy for the rest of my life. On Mondays, Grandad picked me up from school, but when he saw me and asked how my day had been, I just shrugged. I couldn't exactly tell him about the dragon poo incident, and we'd lost so spectacularly in the rounders match, I just wanted to forget the whole day. "I've been thinking about the garden," Grandad said. "We need to work out what's going where. Got to get the right conditions for each plant, or they won't thrive. What do you say? Fancy coming over and helping me plan it out?" Can I come tomorrow?" I said, thinking of how I really just wanted to get home to Flicker. As we walked on through the park, Grandad started telling me about how we were going to mark out the garden into areas, but I was too distracted to listen properly. I kept thinking about the first dragon fruits I'd seen under the tree. Had more dragons really hatched? Could there be 6 dragons hiding out in our town? It seemed so unlikely. I mean, with the amount of mess my one little dragon was wreaking, if there was a whole pack of them out there, surely the news would be full of explosions and unexplained fires. People noticed stuff like that, didn't they? The nagging feeling I'd had during lessons grew even worse the closer I got to home. I started walking more quickly, my brain going over and over everything I'd done that morning. And then it landed on me like a cosmic cowpat, the thing I hadn't done. I grabbed the front door key from Grandad's hand and ran, my panic rising. Because the one thing I'd forgotten to do was close my bedroom window. At home, my fingers fumbled with the lock. I raced up the stairs and flung open the door to my bedroom. When I looked inside, it wasn't the shredded curtain or the dragon poo on my computer that I noticed first. It was Flicker, perched on the windowsill, at the open window. For 2 days I'd had the coolest pet in the world. 2 days. And now I was about to lose him. I stood frozen to the spot. "Thomas!" Grandad called, coming up the stairs. You okay? Your pants on fire, summit. He paused halfway up and looked through the banisters towards my door. I quickly pulled it shut behind me. Nah, just checking Tom hadn't gone in my room again, I said, but my voice was far too squeaky to sound casual. He looked about to quiz me, and then said, Rightio, I guess every man's entitled to his secrets. Hey, Chipstick? He gave me a wink. I'm just downstairs if you need me. I'll put the kettle on, shall I? Yeah, great, thanks, good idea, I said, already disappearing back into my room. With the bedroom door safely closed, I turned to face the little dragon. He was still on the windowsill, staring up at the sky, his tail flicking from side to side. Flicker, I whispered desperately. He turned. I reached out a hand towards him, but he launched into the air. For a heart-stopping moment, I watched him soar, up, up and away. I'd only ever let him fly inside the house. Now, sensing freedom, he was going to simply fly away and leave me. I raced over to the window, my eyes locked on the little shape flitting about among the leaves of the trees at the end of the garden. After a few agonising minutes, he fluttered towards the tree in the next door's garden, the nearest one by my window. He perched on a branch, his diamond eyes fixed on me. I held my breath to see what he would do next. I waited, my heart ready to crack, willing him to come back to me, terrified he wouldn't. Then, stretching his wings, and with his eyes still locked on mine, Flicker flew back in through the window and settled on my shoulder. And it felt like a firework display was going off inside me.